Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing for Monday, the 26th of September. The year is fair cracking on. How are we doing, Johnny?
I'm doing well, mate. I'm good. Obviously, today's normally my day off, but with Josh still on his wee sojourn, his wee break, I've been called in to do the video.
Yeah, that is professionalism right there. And of course, we can now start the build-up to Saturday, of course, and the return of Rangers to domestic action. Cannot wait for that. Lots to talk about, folks, despite us being in the midst of the international break. Before we talk all things Rangers, though, as you can see a little ticker below, we've still got that tremendous offer on the website just now. Just £1 for 2 months worth of content. We're practically giving it away. It's only £2.99 per month thereafter, but it's an absolutely sensational deal. Head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe for all the details, and I've bunged the link in the comment section. As usual as well, if you've not taken advantage of it just yet. Loads of great content on there. Let's discuss some stories that inadvertently affect Rangers. Well, they do affect Rangers. We'll touch on... I wanted to touch on Lee Wallace, but before that, Johnny, an issue that you feel, well, we all feel strongly about is that the current TV deal and the offer on the table. I think the Premiership clubs meeting tomorrow to discuss that. As far as I'm aware, Rangers and Livingston are not behind the current offer that's been put on the table by Sky, the proposed new £38 million deal. Now, Aberdeen chairman Dave Cormack has come out yesterday. I found it rather strange, to be honest, but he came out yesterday, hit back at Rangers managing director Stuart Robertson. Of course, you spoke to him last week with regards to this, and he was discussing how it's not value for money and it's not been put out for tender, which seems crazy. But Robertson, of course, claimed that Scottish football was being undersold by the SPFL and pointed to the broadcasting agreement that Malmo in Sweden have in place as proof of that. I think the clubs in Sweden earn nearly twice as much money than we do in Scotland. But Dave Cormack came out with a lengthy statement yesterday, Johnny, basically supporting the current deal. I'll quickly read through some of the main points in this. He says, much has been written and said about the potential new deal between SPFL and Sky. Our game has some real challenges that we must address, but the most unilateral criticism of this potential Sky deal, as soon as it was leaked, devoid of all the facts and context, doesn't help. And he talks about Sweden. He says it was recently reported that Sweden is getting £48 million a season versus the current SPFL deal of about £25 million. Lee's reports state that Malmo get double what Rangers got for last season's second place finish. The reality is that Sweden has sold all 240 top league games per season to live television. The SPFL currently sells only 48. All of Malmo's home games are live on television. SPFL Premiership clubs are committed to only 4, soon to be 5, live television games at home. It goes on to say, this begs the question, would SPFL Premiership clubs be willing to provide every home game live in order to get the total value of any broadcasting deal much, much higher? And it goes on to say the simple answer is no. He basically, he's poo-pooing everything that Stuart Robertson was saying last week, Johnny. It's a lot of Aberdeen fans coming out and sort of criticising them for this. And I've seen
it's gone down like a lead balloon with its own fan base, that's for sure.
Yeah, so it seems like a right proper faux pas from him. What do you make of this tweet that came out? Well, the statement that came out from Aberdeen yesterday from Dave Cormack.
Well, how long do you want to discuss this? Because I think I could probably talk about 25 minutes on this. Right, where do you start? Right, first up, trying to assess this deal on the basis of the amount per match, that's the equivalent of tenants championing the fact that you walked into Tesco and bought a can of tenants for £1.50 rather than going into Tesco and buying a pack of 12 tenants, right? Now, a pack of 12 tenants will be a tenner. So those cans are cheaper in that pack. What do you think tenants want you to buy? The 12-pack or the single can?
Yeah.
They'll want you to buy the 12-pack because scale of the business, more money in the till, the more that they sell, the cheaper it is to make, etc., etc., etc. Now, very basic point, but I think it's a misnomer to be going down that route on the TV deal about the value per match. Also, by the little table that Aberdeen chairman includes, he's trumpeting the value per game, which in his own table, by his own admission, has gone down from the current deal. Look at it. It goes from just over 500,000 to 500,000, right? So, and if, and this is a big if Sky could take up the further 20 games in 2 10-game tranches, which they won't take up, by the way, I'd put put a lot of money on them not taking it up, because they don't take up their full allocation of games now. So why they would want to take another 20 games, that makes absolutely no sense. If they do take that up, to take it up to 38 million, then it will bring it even down further. So it's confused. That's the first thing I would say. It's not an argument, I don't think, that stands up to much scrutiny. And again, just to reiterate, the Aberdeen fans themselves and fans across the SPFL were taking Dave Cormack to task on this.
Yes.
This TV deal, Derek, I just don't think you can sell this as being a terrific, fantastic move forward for Scottish football, as Dave Cormack is clearly trying to do, to put on his spin on how he sees the deal, and that's fine. The key question that I have about this deal is, and this is something Stuart Robertson said to me when I sat down with him, how do we know that this is a good deal if it's not been put out to tender, Derek?
Yeah.
Now, Dave Cormack's response to that, and I'm trying to find it right now, but just going off the top of my head, it was something like, we basically, just because we haven't put it out to tender doesn't mean we haven't spoken to market, right?
Yes.
So I don't have the exact quote in front of me because it's a long statement and I'm trying to find it and I can't see it.
Johnny says here, the fact we have not gone out to formal tender does not mean that we've not talked to the market.
Right. So the question I would have is, if you don't need to put it out to tender, if it's just informal conversations, what is the point of a tender process ever? Why do businesses do it?
Yeah.
If it's just as simple as informal discussions with market, then you know. So the other thing is, in terms of actually the agreement itself, in terms of actually going out now and trying to do any kind of deal with someone else, they can't do that because they've set their value, haven't they? Yeah. I mean, they can't do anything now. That they're boxed into this deal. I mean, there's other things in the statement. He's talking about it being a 30 million deal. It's 29.5 million. You know, if we're talking about the facts and drilling down into the detail of why this is a good deal, like, I think we should probably get that right from the get-go. I know he's just probably rounding up, but it's still £500,000, you know, and an important extra. It's not 30 million; it's under 30 million. And
yeah,
listen, these guys are businessmen. I actually quite like Dave Cormack and admire him as a chairman in that he puts his money where his mouth is. He's a big Aberdeen fan and is prepared to like bankroll his club, right? So you cannot deny that he does that, and fair enough. But what he's asking people to swallow here, it doesn't feel right, does it? This little edging it up every time that the deal comes round, edging it up a little bit more. That's what Stuart was saying when he spoke to me about it. There doesn't feel like there's a lot of thought process going into it. It doesn't feel like there's a lot of planning and making sure that you're getting absolute most bang for your buck. I mean, why, for example, I would ask Dave Cormack, have they not considered SPFL TV? I mean, this was a plan that was considered 20 years ago that 10 out of the 12 clubs agreed to go ahead with. Technology has been completely radically changed and much easier to use now. So what are we saying, that a deal that 10 clubs, including Aberdeen themselves, back 10 years ago, and I think Dave Cormack was possibly, I'm pretty sure, was round about Aberdeen at that time. That might be wrong, but he was certainly there or thereabouts. It was close. Are we saying that we're not in a better position to go forward with a subscription service now?
Yep.
At the very least, having that allows you to go to Sky and say, look, you need to hit a certain amount. Otherwise, we're not prepared to to do it. The other thing, Derek, I think that's really important is, this comment about Sweden has sold 240 league games and we've sold 48. That's just not true.
Yeah,
all the Scottish games have been sold. It's just that some of them have been given back to clubs to sell PPV. Now, that's 5 per club. Why aren't all of them available? Why are we in a situation where you could have a game where Rangers fans, for example, can't watch it? They can't watch it without using a VPN. It just drives people to piracy. It drives people to illegal streaming. And I just get the sense that people, do they get where we are in 2022? Do we get how easy it is and how kind of second nature it is from someone who's grown up as an internet native to find a stream and watch the game? Doesn't matter if it's Aberdeen or Dundee United or Rangers. We need to make it as easy as possible for fans to see the game because that's what they want to do. And as for this comment that he makes about we're trying to protect revenues, we're trying to protect the gates. Well, we've had 2 years of PPV available for clubs. Has there been an effect on the gates on the back of that? We've not heard about it. I've not heard a single chairman come out and say that. No. So if that's the case, certainly not been the case at Rangers, Derek.
No.
But if that's the case at other clubs, then let's see the numbers that back up. It's not right. And listen, I think the key thing about Rangers, though, and everyone needs to remember this, right? This doesn't really affect Rangers in the same way as it affects the other clubs.
Yeah.
Because it's only a tiny percentage. And we're talking, 2.7 million Rangers made from coming second last year from TV revenue. Not a big outlay and not going to make a huge difference to a club that's aiming towards 100 million revenue in a year. But we're talking about the overall strength of the Scottish game, and we can see how Rangers' performance in Europe has overall strengthened the Scottish game. You've got Hearts now in the Conference League. They could have been and should have been in the Europa League. You've got second place team is in the Champions League. You've got the first place team goes straight into the Champions League. That has all come on the back of 4 years of extremely good performance in Europe by Rangers. Yeah. And to give Celtic credit, the standard Celtic performances over the last 4 or 5, the last decade. And those two things together has been what's propelled Scottish football. And now you're seeing the money coming into Hearts as well. And Hearts will massively benefit from having that revenue from those games. And you know what? Hearts might even just get through and see more money coming in. So that strengthens the whole game. And this is a broader point than maybe just Rangers. And I hope we're not boring anyone, but it's International Week and there's not an awful lot else going on.
No, I know.
But I think it's also important as well that Rangers push to get the kind of value that 4 Old Firm games deserve. And then you're talking about the other games that take place between Rangers, Celtic and AN Other in the league. Now, that's disrespectful to say it like that to the other teams, and I don't mean it like that, but that's what the broadcast deal is.
Yeah.
It's Rangers versus Celtic and then Rangers versus whatever club away. That is the broadcast deal, and that's how they see it. They're not interested really in any other games apart from maybe the Old Firm, the Edinburgh Derby or whatever. There needs to be new thinking brought in. The SPFL executive, led by Neil Doncaster, is not good enough. Neil Doncaster has taken £400,000 a year out of the game in Scotland. That's a salary, £400,000 a year. And what does Neil Doncaster deliver for that £400,000? What 3 things has Neil Doncaster given to Scottish football in his time as chief executive?
The fact that I can't think of one is extremely. There's your answer, and there's positive vibes there. I think that's a view held by many, not just Rangers supporters, but a lot of supporters of Scottish football. as well. It's got a wee bit to run. As I mentioned, folks, the clubs are meeting tomorrow with regards to the current offer on the table. I'll just bring the link into Dave Cormack's comments on our website in the comments section as well, so you can have a wee read at that in your own time also. But yeah, depressing stuff as it stands. Let's move on, Johnny, because the big news yesterday as well was that former Rangers captain Lee Wallace announced his retirement at the age of 35. He was recently down south. He joined QPR, of course. He teamed up again with Mark Warburton before he left, and of course Michael Beale took over. Spent 8 years at Ibrox, and of course fantastic that he stuck around when the club was demoted to the bottom tier. When he could have moved on, he stuck around the club and led them back up to the top flight. His wife actually put a nice little message on Twitter yesterday saying 475 professional club appearances, 30 career goals, 10 Scotland caps. Not bad for a young boy from Carrick now. We're also proud and enjoying having you home for a much-deserved break and family time before the next step into coaching when the time is right. He's someone that I was a bit sad to see how he exited Ibrox, Johnny. I've got to admit, I think he deserved a bit more of a send-off, but it's just the way it is with football, I guess. But he's certainly a player that played his part in Rangers' recent history in getting the club back up to where it belongs.
Yeah, I for one, I'm really disappointed with the way it ended for Lee Wallace, because not only in terms of him not kind of getting the chance to sort of cap off his Rangers career, just the fact that he barely played for 2 years, Derek, and it was hard to know actually what happened and how it played out, because nobody's, Lee's not talked about it, and I understand that he wasn't keen to talk about it. Certainly, I think you've reached out to him in the past to try and
I just wanted to, he didn't want to talk about his time at Rangers at that point. I think it was about a year ago or what have you. It might change now, of course, now that he's hung the boots up. But there's obviously something went on, Johnny, at the end of his career there.
But in terms of his overall career at the club, you have to say he was magnificent. He came in as a £1.5 million signing as a young boy, and quickly, I thought, adapted to what it meant to be a Ranger. I thought he was pretty good in his first season at the club. He scored that memorable goal against Celtic. What a run that was, by the way. I've seen that goal floating about on our social media channels, and he wins the ball brilliantly. I mean, talk about high pressing, left back. I don't know what he was really doing up there, to be honest, but he wins the ball, gets the ball to Stephen Davies, who plays in a fantastic pass, but it's the power of the run from Wallace. He had some legs on him when he was younger, and a great finish. And a guy who was in the prime of his career, who could have gone elsewhere. Believe me, there was clubs in for Lee Wallace several times throughout his spell in the lower leagues, and he wanted to see it through. He wanted to see the club back to the top flight, and he was able to do that. And I mean, my best memories of Lee Wallace will be through the Mark Warburton era, the season in the Championship, because I thought he was absolutely outstanding that year. Leading by example, bombing down that left wing with the freedom that Warburton gave him. Him on one side, Tav on the other. It was fantastic to watch when it was played out properly, when it was, especially in the first, I think, 13, 14, 15 games before, I think there was a little bit of a sense that clubs started to understand how to kind of block it off. But I just give him full credit for what he did going down there, because he didn't have to do that, Derek. He could have gone elsewhere, and it would have been better for his career. He would have earned more money. He would have done better with Scotland, I think, than he did. He only got 10 caps in the end, which I know you look at it now and you say, well, Andy Robertson and Kieran Tierney were there, but this is kind of before those guys were fully on the scene. He could have picked up a lot more caps. And I just have nothing but admiration for what he did and how he performed. And when you talk to Mark Warburton, who I've spoken to about Lee Wallace a couple of times, he's so full of admiration for what he brought to the table as a leader. And I've heard so many other people talk about the class that he showed off the pitch during that period, and the standards that he demanded, and the time that he had for everyone. He was a proper leader. in that dressing room, and he was a proper leader, showing the correct standards for the club on and off the pitch, I think. So, and I wish him nothing but the best. What's your best memory of him, Derek?
Yeah, listen. Yeah, I think I agree with you, Johnny. I think that season under Warburton was a joy to watch him and Tavernier on both flanks, scoring goals for fun. In fact, I think they had a competition who would score the most goals. Also, the Scottish Cup semi-final against Celtic, I think, as well, when he led the team out and they beat Celtic, of course, on penalties. He loved the club and he represented the club with distinction and by example. So yeah, I was bitterly disappointed to see him leave in the way he did. I think he deserved better than that for the sort of dedication he gave to the club. But that's football, I guess. It can be cruel at times, but I would like to see him come back in some sort of capacity, whether that's on Rangers TV or what have you. I know he's into the coaching as well, so I wish him all the best with regards to that. And as Curry Muncher says, I wish he had his mentality at Rangers right now. He's certainly the guy, sort of guy you'd like in that dressing room. Just now, he would set the standards and set the example. And as Stephen Gillespie rightly says, great player, great captain. Enjoy the slippers and pipe, big man. You've earned it. Yeah, he certainly has. Wish you all the best in his retirement. Okay, that'll do us there, folks. Thanks very much to everyone for interacting with the show as ever. It's very much appreciated. Just a reminder, if you want to subscribe to the website, loads on there. There's an interview I did with Aidan Wilson that you can find on there. As well. Aidan was great. He's another one that's given back to Rangers by coaching at the club's soccer schools over in Northern Ireland. So I'd encourage you to go and check it out. You can subscribe now for 2 months for just £1. It's an absolute bargain. Head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe for all the details. We'll be back again tomorrow, but until then, enjoy the rest of your Monday.